Billionaire kicked out his pregnant wife for the mistress, then lost everything in a divorce trial. From the outside, Lucas and Anna Morrison seemed like the perfect couple, devoted, successful, and ready to welcome their first child into a world they'd built with love. But beneath that pristine exterior lay an unraveling tapestry of secrets, betrayals, and shattered trust. When Lucas callously kicked his pregnant wife out to make space for his glamorous new mistress, the world he'd so carefully curated crumbled. In a shocking turn of events, Lucas found himself facing a brutal divorce trial, one that would strip away not only his pride, but everything he once held dear. This is a tale of heartbreak, vengeance, and the ultimate reckoning. Lucas Morrison was the sort of man people gravitated toward. Tall, charming, and fiercely ambitious. He built his reputation on being the best in his field. Financial consulting. His commanding presence and warm smile made him not only a stellar professional, but also the sort of husband any woman might dream of. For Anna Morrison, Ine Parker, meeting Lucas during her final year at Georgetown University felt like stepping into a fairy tale. He was 4 years older, already blazing a trail at a renowned financial firm, and he carried himself with a confidence that left Anna breathless. Their courtship was swift. Weekend getaways to wineries in Virginia, candlelit dinners at cozy bistros in Washington, D.C., and late-night strolls along the Potomac River. Every moment with Lucas seemed magical. He introduced Anna to his family as if he'd always known she would be the one. Anna's parents, Elizabeth Davis and Harold Parker, welcomed Lucas with open arms. They praised his accomplishments and admired his unwavering focus on career and success. Anna, raised to value kindness and humility above all else, felt a pang of pride whenever she saw the admiration in her parents' eyes. It was during a New Year's Eve gala at the Morrison family's estate that Lucas proposed. Fireworks erupted in the sky, casting brilliant sparks of color across the frozen lake. In that glittering moment, as he knelt with a diamond ring in hand, Anna felt her heart soar. She said yes with tears streaming down her face, convinced she had found her soulmate, her forever partner in life. They married the following summer at a historic cathedral in downtown Washington, D.C. The ceremony was lavish yet tasteful. Anna's lace gown, imported from Milan, shimmered under the light of 100 candles. Lucas looked every bit the dashing groom in his tailored tuxedo. Their wedding photos graced the social pages of local magazines, and their union was hailed as the coming together of two bright, young talents. In the early years of marriage, life glided forward seamlessly. Lucas brought home accolades and bonuses, earning the admiration of everyone at his firm. Anna, who worked as an interior designer, found herself thriving both creatively and financially. They purchased a lovely brownstone in Georgetown, a place with warm wooden floors and tall windows that allowed the morning light to stream in. Friends envied their synergy, calling them the power couple. Family gatherings were always peppered with praise about how they were the perfect match. Anna's soft heart balancing Lucas's drive. When Anna discovered she was pregnant, she believed their happiness was complete. She'd spent nights imagining a child with Lucas's steel gray eyes and her own compassionate smile. Lucas seemed excited too. He cradled her growing belly at night, whispering hopes and dreams for their future child. The baby's kicks became the new highlight in their household. They attended prenatal classes together, Lucas even reading parenting books in bed. But fate has a way of revealing the hidden cracks in any edifice. As the days turned to weeks and the pregnancy advanced, subtle changes in Lucas's behavior began to appear. Small, seemingly insignificant moments would later become harbingers of the chaos that was to come. If Anna had known then what she knew later, she might have seen the signs and braced herself. But love, as always, can be blinding, and Anna never expected the storm that would soon shatter her world. It all began with the phone calls. Late in the evening, as Anna dozed on the living room couch, Lucas's phone would buzz incessantly. Normally, he'd set it aside or answer casually, but now he jerked to attention, grabbed the phone, and disappeared into another room. Anna, who always trusted her husband, felt a subtle knot tighten in her stomach, but she dismissed it as hormonal changes. After all, pregnancy brought unpredictable emotions, right? Then there were the abrupt changes in Lucas's schedule. Business trips multiplied. He started leaving early and coming home later than usual. When Anna expressed concern, he brushed it off with an affectionate smile, claiming his high-profile clients demanded more of his time. While Anna believed him, he'd always been a workaholic, she couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something else was going on. One evening, as Anna and Lucas prepared to attend an office party at his firm, he received a text message that caused his expression to flicker. Anna was close enough to see the name Veronica flash on his screen. She vaguely recalled Lucas mentioning a new colleague, Veronica Cole, who had joined the company's marketing division. But Anna had never thought much of it. She wanted to meet this Veronica at the party that evening, to put a face to the name that seemed to appear on Lucas's phone too often for comfort. At the firm's rooftop cocktail hour, Anna felt like she was stepping into Lucas's domain. He navigated the crowd effortlessly, shaking hands and offering kind words. She noticed a beautiful brunette woman lingering in the corner, her emerald dress shimmering under the city lights. Lucas beamed as he introduced Anna to Veronica Cole. Veronica was poised, confident, and undeniably attractive. Her dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, and she had a smile that seemed designed to captivate. For a moment, Anna felt relief. Veronica appeared professional and courteous, complimenting Anna on her design work. But as the evening wore on, Anna couldn't help but notice Veronica's gaze flicking toward Lucas, sometimes lingering a second too long. The gestures, though subtle, sent a jolt of alarm through Anna's chest. She found herself fixating on small details, like how Veronica's hand briefly brushed Lucas's arm in conversation. It could be innocent, but to Anna, who was battling her own insecurities, it felt like a warning sign. Despite her growing anxiety, Anna remained silent. She told herself not to jump to conclusions. After all, Lucas had never given her a real reason to doubt him. But as days turned to weeks, the tension in their home grew. Lucas was more distracted than ever, often lost in thought. Anna would wake at night to find his side of the bed empty, the faint glow of his cell phone illuminating his face in the living room. When Veronica's name came up during casual conversations, Lucas always changed the subject. More than once, Anna overheard hushed late-night phone calls that ended abruptly when she entered the room. The closeness she once felt with Lucas began to wane. She yearned to confide in someone, her mother, Elizabeth Davis, or her best friend from college, Marianne Foster. But she worried about sounding paranoid. In her mind, she blamed her hormones, the stress of the pregnancy, or maybe a temporary crisis that Lucas was dealing with at work. Yet in the depths of her heart, the seeds of doubt had been planted, and they were growing roots. Anna wanted so desperately to hold on to the mirage of a perfect marriage, but the subtle changes in Lucas's behavior were making it impossible to ignore the possibility that something was amiss. Little did she know, those seeds of doubt were about to burst forth into the open, uprooting everything she thought she knew about her husband and about the life they had built together. As the weeks wore on, Anna's suspicion became harder to dismiss. One afternoon, fed up with the swirling questions in her mind, she decided to visit Lucas's office unannounced. She told herself it was a sweet gesture, a chance to bring him lunch and share a few moments together in the middle of a hectic workday. But beneath that facade, Anna knew she was searching for clarity. Clutching a homemade turkey sandwich and a bouquet of fresh daisies, she slipped past the reception area, smiling politely at the receptionist who recognized her as Mrs. Morrison. It was quiet. Many staff members were out for a conference. She made her way down the corridor to Lucas's office and paused at the door, heart thundering in her ears. Through the partially open blinds, she saw Veronica Cole perched on the edge of Lucas's desk, leaning in as she whispered something to him. Lucas reached up, brushed a strand of hair from her face, and smiled in a way that made Anna's blood run cold. Anna stood there, paralyzed for what felt like an eternity. In those few seconds, everything else faded. The hum of the air conditioner, the occasional ring of a phone down the hall, even the faint shuffle of footsteps. All she heard was the rush of her own heartbeat and the slow, agonizing realization that the man she loved was intimately engaged with another woman. Gathering her composure, she knocked softly on the door. Veronica straightened so quickly she nearly toppled over. Lucas spun around, surprise etched across his features. Anna forced a warm, albeit shaky smile. "Hello, darling. I brought you lunch," she said, placing the sandwich and flowers on his desk with trembling hands. The tension in the room was suffocating. Veronica mumbled something about needing to finalize a marketing deck and scurried out, leaving a heavy silence in her wake. Lucas attempted a smile, but Anna could see the panic behind his eyes. "This is a surprise," he said, awkwardly clearing his throat. "It seemed like you've been working so hard," she replied, her voice catching in her throat. "I wanted to do something nice." She waited for a confession, some sign of guilt or even relief to be caught. But Lucas merely thanked her for the lunch and mumbled about a looming deadline. The entire exchange was painfully stiff, each forced smile only sharpening Anna's despair. She left the office feeling nauseous, heart aching for answers she knew he wouldn't provide easily. That night, Anna confronted Lucas after dinner. She mentioned his closeness with Veronica, the strange hours, the phone calls. Instead of reassuring her, Lucas exploded in anger, accusing Anna of being over-emotional and paranoid. His words cut like knives. "Can you not see I'm under tremendous stress at work? You think I want to deal with these baseless accusations while I'm trying to secure a promotion? You're pregnant and hormonal, and it's making you imagine things." It was a side of Lucas Anna had never witnessed, cold, dismissive, and unyielding. She retreated to the bedroom in tears, confusion, and heartbreak churning inside her. In the days that followed, Lucas grew more distant, and their arguments escalated. He would come home late, sometimes not at all, and refused to entertain any discussion about Veronica or his erratic behavior. Anna realized that her once perfect marriage was crumbling under the weight of betrayal. Yet she clung to the hope that Lucas would remember the love they shared, that he'd realize the magnitude of what he was risking. Little did she know, Veronica had no intention of letting go of her hold on him, and the confrontation brewing on the horizon would change Anna's life forever. Each day felt like a slow descent into madness. Anna knew in her gut that Lucas was having an affair, but proving it, or rather confronting it, seemed nearly impossible. She felt trapped in a fog of uncertainty. The pregnancy, which should have been her beacon of hope, now felt like a weight pulling her under. She worried about stress harming the baby, but how could she quell the storm raging in her heart? With Lucas growing more distant, Anna sought support from her mother, Elizabeth Davis. She visited Elizabeth one evening, her eyes brimming with tears. Over cups of chamomile tea, Anna finally let the floodgates open. She described the changes in Lucas, the late-night phone calls, the unsettling office encounter. Elizabeth listened quietly, her expression grave. "My dear child, you need to prioritize yourself and your baby," Elizabeth said, placing a comforting hand on Anna's shoulder. "If he's straying, you can't ignore it. You have to decide what you want, what you need." Elizabeth's words lingered in Anna's mind as she drove home. What did she need? Deep down, Anna wanted her husband back. She wanted the Lucas who once held her close at night and whispered how lucky he was to have her. But how could she save a marriage if he was unwilling to let her in? Desperate, Anna concocted a plan to remind Lucas of what they once had. She spent hours preparing a special dinner, his favorite steak, roasted vegetables, and a decadent chocolate mousse. She dressed in the maternity gown she'd bought months ago, but had been too self-conscious to wear. Carefully applying light makeup, she tried to channel the confidence she once felt in his eyes. When Lucas walked through the door, face etched with fatigue and frustration, Anna greeted him with a cautious smile. The table was set with candles, a bouquet of roses at its center. "I wanted us to have a nice evening together," she said softly. For a brief moment, Lucas looked touched, perhaps even guilty. He hesitated, glancing at the candlelit table, then nodded. Over dinner, Anna tried to recapture the intimacy they once shared. She asked him about his day, inquired about his work. He offered brief, clipped responses. The tension in the air was palpable, and Anna sensed he was somewhere else entirely, likely in Veronica's thoughts. Finally, she mustered the courage to speak. "Lucas, we need to address what's happening. Our baby is due in a few months, and I need to know where you stand, with me and with our family." Lucas's expression hardened. He pushed his plate aside. "I can't handle these accusations right now," he snapped. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Besides, you're blowing this whole thing out of proportion. Veronica is just a colleague." Anna felt tears welling up. "Then why have you been shutting me out? Why do I feel like there's a stranger in our home instead of my husband?" Lucas stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "I can't do this," he muttered, grabbing his coat from the back of the chair. He left without a backward glance, slamming the door behind him. Anna sat at the table, heartbroken and alone, as the candles flickered in the silence. The desperation she'd tried to push away came rushing back. She no longer recognized her life. What was once a fairy tale now felt like a nightmare with no end in sight. Exhausted and overwhelmed, she wept, wishing for a miracle that would salvage her marriage before it was too late. The day it happened began like any other. Anna, nearing her 7th month of pregnancy, woke up to an empty bed. She swallowed her disappointment, reminded herself she'd survived countless mornings like this in recent weeks. Summoning her strength, she prepared a simple breakfast and tried calling Lucas, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Again. Anxiety gnawed at her all morning. She busied herself tidying the nursery, folding tiny clothes into neat piles, but the silence of the house was suffocating. By noon, she decided to call Lucas's office. The receptionist explained he was in an off-site meeting. It wasn't unusual, but something felt off, like she was missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. Around 6 p.m., Lucas finally called back. His voice was ice cold. "We need to talk. I'll be home soon." Without another word, he hung up, leaving Anna dreading his return. She sensed that tonight would either bring a turning point or another scarring argument. When Lucas arrived, he had Veronica Cole in tow. The audacity left Anna speechless. Dressed in a sharp suit, Lucas exuded an air of grim determination. Veronica, wearing a fitted pencil skirt and a silk blouse, stood slightly behind him, her chin raised arrogantly. "What is she doing here?" Anna asked, her voice trembling. Lucas's gaze flicked to Veronica before turning to Anna. "We need to make some changes," he said flatly. "This isn't working anymore." Anna's heartbeat thundered in her ears. "What do you mean?" she asked, even though her mind had already pieced together the horrifying truth. Lucas inhaled sharply, as if steeling himself for the admission. "Veronica and we're together now. I've made a decision. I want you to move out." Anna felt the room spin. "What? I'm your wife. I'm carrying our child. How can you say that?" Her hands instinctively cradled her belly, protective and terrified. Veronica stepped forward, her voice dripping with feigned sympathy. "Lucas wants what's best for everyone. This toxicity," she gestured around the living room, "isn't healthy for you or the baby. You deserve a calmer environment." The sheer audacity made Anna's stomach twist in rage. "You think you can just walk in here, into my home, and tell me to leave? Have you no shame?" Lucas avoided her glare, his jaw set in stony resolve. "I've spoken to a lawyer," he continued, pulling out a folder and handing it to her. "This is an agreement that will ensure you're taken care of financially. But I can't keep living a lie. You'll have enough to find a new place." Tears stung Anna's eyes, but her anger outweighed her heartbreak. "This is my home too. You can't just kick me out like I'm some stranger. We built this life together." Veronica placed a hand on Lucas's shoulder, and he visibly relaxed into her touch. "Please, Anna," he said, softer this time. "This is better for us all." Anna's fury bubbled over. "How dare you do this to me now while I'm pregnant with your child? You're truly heartless." She glared at Veronica. "And you'll never understand what loyalty and commitment mean." But it was no use. Lucas's eyes held a firm, unyielding resolve. Anna realized that the man she'd married was gone, replaced by someone who could throw his pregnant wife onto the streets for the sake of a mistress. Gathering the fragments of her pride, she stormed out, grabbing only her purse and car keys, refusing to let them see her weep. Outside, the evening air hit her like a slap. She collapsed into the driver's seat, tears streaming down her face. Fear gripped her as she realized she had nowhere to go. Her parents lived states away, and her closest friend, Marianne, was overseas for work. After minutes of sobbing into the steering wheel, she started the car. She would find a way forward. She had to, for her unborn child. Little did she know, this nightmarish betrayal was just the beginning. The world she'd known lay in ruins. But sometimes the darkest nights lead to the brightest dawn. And Anna, though battered and broken, was far from defeated. Anna felt numb as she drove aimlessly under the glow of streetlights. The city that once felt familiar now seemed like a foreign place, brimming with harsh memories and broken dreams. Adrift, her phone buzzed on the passenger seat. She glanced at the screen to see her mother's name. She hadn't mustered the strength to call Elizabeth yet, but maybe it was time. She pulled over in front of a closed bookstore, the neon lights from the sign casting a soft haze into the car. After a moment's hesitation, she picked up. "Mom?" Her voice trembled despite her efforts to stay calm. "Anna, I had this overwhelming feeling that something was wrong. Are you okay?" Elizabeth's voice was gentle, but Anna could sense the concern beneath it. Everything poured out in a rush of tears and words. She recounted how Lucas brought Veronica to the house, the ultimatum he'd laid out, the papers he handed her. Elizabeth listened in stunned silence. "My God," she finally whispered. "My poor baby. Listen, you're not alone. Drive to me. Stay here as long as you need. Your father and I will help." The relief that washed over Anna was immediate and overwhelming. Thank you. Yes, I'll head there tonight." She paused, guilt tugging at her. "It's such a long drive, though, and it's late." Elizabeth was firm. "We'll leave the porch light on, and we'll be waiting." Anna's voice quivered. "Mom, I'm so scared. I feel like my life's falling apart." Elizabeth's voice was resolute. "I know, honey, but you have a family who loves you. We'll get through this." Hanging up, Anna pulled herself together. She drove through the night, stopping only for gas, a few snacks, and to stretch her legs. The hours on the road were a blur of heartbreak, anger, and a flicker of hope. She reminded herself with every mile that she was doing this for the child growing inside her. Just as dawn approached, she arrived at her parents' home in rural Virginia. The porch light was indeed on, and Elizabeth rushed out in her robe the moment Anna's car pulled in. Tears streamed down both their faces as they embraced. Her father, Harold Parker, quickly followed, enveloping them both in a bear hug. "We've got you," he murmured. "Everything's going to be okay." Inside, the house smelled of lavender and homemade biscuits, a comforting aroma that reminded Anna of simpler times. Elizabeth fussed over her, preparing a bed in Anna's old room and making sure she ate something before sleeping. As exhausted as she was, Anna barely slept, her thoughts a constant barrage of betrayal and anxiety. In the days that followed, her parents provided the solace Anna desperately needed. They reminded her of her own strength, encouraging her to focus on her health and the baby. Slowly, Anna began to piece together a plan. She reached out to an old acquaintance, Michelle Waters, a local lawyer in the county who specialized in family law. At first, Anna was terrified by the prospect of a legal battle, but Michelle reassured her. "You have rights," Michelle said firmly after hearing Anna's story. "Lucas can't just toss you aside and waltz off with a mistress. You have the advantage here, especially with your child on the way. I'll help you secure what's fair." With each passing day, Anna felt a spark of determination flickering inside her. She still cried at night, mourning the loss of the life she thought she had. But beneath that sorrow, a fierce resolve was taking root. She was no longer the naive wife waiting for her husband to come to his senses. She was a mother-to-be, ready to fight for her dignity and her unborn child's future. Little did she know that the battle ahead would be more treacherous than she ever imagined, but also more liberating than she dared hope. Settling into her parents' home brought Anna unexpected comfort. The familiar creaking of the wooden floors, the soft hum of the ancient air conditioning unit, and the gentle presence of her mother were all reminders that she wasn't alone. She spent her mornings walking around the property, one hand always resting on her belly, talking to her unborn child about the life she hoped to give them. Meanwhile, Michelle Waters, the family lawyer, wasted no time gathering preliminary information for the impending divorce. She insisted that Anna compile any evidence of Lucas's affair. At first, Anna balked. She felt foolish going through phone records, emails, and social media. But Michelle's voice was unwavering over the phone. "In a legal battle like this, evidence is everything," Michelle explained. "Especially if you want alimony and child support. You need to show his infidelity." Reluctantly, Anna agreed. She combed through old emails Lucas had forwarded to her that included attachments from work. She glanced at phone bills and credit card statements, searching for any patterns that might expose his wrongdoing. Her heart ached each time she found a clue. A dinner reservation on a night he claimed he was working late. A hotel charge on a weekend he said he was on a business trip. Each discovery was like a stab to her already fragile heart. But it also fanned the flames of her anger, fueling her determination to stand up for herself. One day, while scrolling through her social media messages, she noticed an unexpected friend request, Veronica Cole. A wave of nausea hit Anna. It was a taunt, she was sure of it. Fear and anger mingled as her finger hovered over the decline button. Before she could decide, a message popped up from Veronica. You should just move on. Lucas has made his choice. Stop clinging to him. You'll be happier for it. Anna felt her hands shake as she read the words. She could almost hear Veronica's smug tone. Part of her wanted to fire back a scathing reply, but she resisted. Instead, she took screenshots. Evidence, as Michelle had taught her. She saved every text, every email, and forwarded them to Michelle's secure email address. But the biggest breakthrough came unexpectedly through a mutual friend, Ian Caldwell, who worked in the same firm as Lucas. Ian reached out to Anna, expressing shock and dismay at Lucas's actions. He confided that rumors were swirling around the office about Lucas and Veronica, who were apparently quite open about their relationship now. People whispered about the scandalous nature of how Lucas had kicked out his pregnant wife. Ian sympathized with Anna, offering to send her any relevant information he could gather. A few days later, an envelope arrived at her parents' doorstep, addressed to her in a neat, unfamiliar script. Inside were printed copies of emails between Lucas and Veronica. The subject lines alone confirmed everything. Paris trip next month. Your place tonight. Missing you? Anna didn't need to read every line to understand that Lucas had been deeply involved with Veronica long before he kicked her out. Clutching the printed emails, Anna trembled. She felt heartbreak, betrayal, and a surge of righteous anger. For all the suffering she had endured, now she had tangible proof of Lucas's betrayal. She carefully placed every page into a folder, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of despair this time, but of resolution. Lucas might have abandoned her, but he couldn't erase their marriage, nor could he escape the consequences of his cruel actions. The stage was set for a battle, a war in which Anna refused to be the casualty. Michelle Waters was a meticulous lawyer. In her cozy corner office, adorned with law books and certificates of achievement, she took Anna through the painstaking process of building their case. Every conversation was methodical and measured, focused on ensuring Anna would stand on firm ground when the legal proceedings began. We have substantial evidence of infidelity, which will definitely influence alimony and child support decisions, Michelle said, tapping a stack of documents on her mahogany desk. Lucas's financial records also show he's capable of paying substantial support if the court rules in your favor. Anna nodded, though her stomach twisted at the thought of facing Lucas in court. She'd once shared a life, dreams, and hopes with this man. Now she had to think of him as an adversary, a foe to be confronted and defeated. The betrayal still burned, but with each passing day, her resolve grew stronger. She was fighting for her unborn baby's future, and that gave her courage she never thought she had. Michelle scheduled a formal meeting with Lucas's legal team to discuss preliminary matters. Anna's heart pounded as she walked into the sleek conference room of a high-rise building in downtown Washington, D.C. The sight of Lucas sitting at the far end of the long table, Veronica perched beside him like a smug accessory, sent Anna's nerves into overdrive. She drew a shaky breath and took a seat next to Michelle, who radiated calm professionalism. An older man with salt and pepper hair cleared his throat. I'm Gerald Morrison, he introduced himself, Lucas's attorney. We're here to negotiate terms prior to heading into formal litigation. Lucas avoided Anna's gaze as he spoke through his lawyer, offering a modest settlement for spousal support and child support. Veronica, eyeing Anna with thinly veiled contempt, occasionally whispered into Lucas's ear. Michelle, ever unflappable, slid over the folder containing copies of the incriminating emails and financial statements. Ms. Morrison has substantial grounds to seek a much larger settlement, Michelle stated coldly. Given the timeline of the affair and your client's actions, a judge would likely see this as deliberate abandonment of a pregnant spouse. Gerald's expression tightened. We're aware of these allegations, he said curtly, but we argue that the marriage was already broken down prior to any alleged affair. Mr. Morrison simply sought happiness elsewhere. Anna's hands balled into fists under the table, but she kept her composure, recalling Michelle's advice. Never let them see you lose your temper. However, she couldn't hold back entirely. You kicked me out of our home, she said quietly, addressing Lucas directly. And you're claiming it was mutual? Lucas finally looked at her. For a brief instant, regret flashed in his eyes, but it quickly hardened into defiance. I couldn't keep living that life. You were miserable, and I was miserable, he mumbled. Veronica placed a hand on his arm, and he stilled. Anna felt her stomach roil with disgust. Michelle intervened, shifting the conversation back to facts and figures, reminding everyone that personal feelings aside, the law was the law. After the meeting ended, Anna left feeling a strange mix of dread and empowerment. Lucas was prepared to fight her, but he underestimated her resilience. With each step she took away from that conference room, she realized how far she'd come from the woman who once watched her husband cradle her belly and speak lovingly to their unborn child. The heartbreak was replaced by a fierce drive to protect herself and the baby. This was only the beginning. The negotiations would likely drag on, with each side maneuvering for advantage. Lucas and Veronica might try every trick in the book to minimize Anna's claim. But Anna had something more powerful than cunning. She had truth on her side. And in the looming court showdown, truth had a way of shining through every lie, no matter how carefully crafted. In the lead-up to the trial, Anna discovered just how cunning Veronica Cole could be. Through acquaintances, Anna learned that Veronica was determined to paint Anna as the unstable, overly emotional wife who had driven Lucas into her arms. The rumor mill churned out countless half-truths. Anna was supposedly controlling, prone to jealousy, and incapable of understanding Lucas's ambitions. Anna tried her best to ignore these vicious attacks. But one afternoon, as she was leaving her obstetrician's office, she found Veronica waiting for her in the hallway, arms folded over her designer coat. Fear shot through Anna. She didn't want a confrontation. Not here. Not when she was at her most vulnerable. "Could we not do this?" Anna pleaded, keeping her tone level. Veronica's eyes flicked to Anna's rounded belly, and a cruel smile twisted her lips. "I just want to talk," she said, voice dripping with condescension. "We both care about Lucas, after all." A surge of protective anger coursed through Anna. "You have no right, none. What you're doing is destroying lives. Mine and my child's." Veronica shrugged, leaning closer, her perfume overwhelming the sterile hospital air. "Lucas and I have a connection you never did. He's finally free to be himself. Can't you see how you held him back?" Hot tears threatened to spill from Anna's eyes, but she swallowed hard, refusing to break. "You know nothing about our marriage," she said in a strained whisper. "And if you think you can intimidate me, you're sorely mistaken." Veronica arched an eyebrow. "Is that so? Because from what I hear, you're alone, holed up at your parents' house, and desperate for a settlement. Hardly the strong, independent type, are you?" Anna's nails dug into her palms. "Get out of my way," she muttered, stepping around Veronica. Her mind screamed at her to stay calm, to protect her baby from unnecessary stress. Just as she passed, Veronica delivered a final, chilling blow. "Good luck in court. You'll need it," she purred. "Lucas deserves better than a simpering wife. The judge will see that." Heart pounding, Anna walked away, refusing to look back. She made it to her car, where she collapsed into the seat, tears streaming uncontrollably. She understood that confronting Lucas's mistress was part of this nightmarish journey, but she never expected the venom that dripped from Veronica's words. Gritting her teeth, she reminded herself that she had something far more precious than Veronica's smug confidence. She had truth, and soon she would have justice. When Anna told Michelle about the encounter, Michelle's lips pressed into a thin line. "We can't use this direct confrontation in court unless there's audio or video evidence. But this does confirm how determined Veronica is to tarnish your reputation." Anna nodded, feeling the helplessness creep in. "I won't let her rattle me," she said, though her voice shook slightly. "I can't afford to." Michelle gave Anna a reassuring smile. "And you won't have to, Anna. Let me handle the dirty work. You focus on your health and your baby." Though her nerves were rattled, Anna drew strength from Michelle's confidence. She clung to the support of her family, the gentle reassurance of her mother, and the unwavering love she felt for her unborn child. Veronica might have the audacity to confront her in a hospital hallway, but Anna refused to break. In the grand scheme of things, the mistress's manipulations were just noise, a cruel distraction from the main event to come, and Anna was determined to rise above the cacophony and fight for what was rightfully hers. The day of the divorce trial arrived in a haze of nerves and determination. Anna stood outside the courthouse in a simple yet elegant maternity dress, her heart pounding so hard it felt as though it might burst from her chest. Her mother, Elizabeth, squeezed her hand reassuringly, and Michelle Waters gave a confident nod. Their presence anchored Anna, reminding her she wasn't alone in this fight. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with hushed conversations and the occasional shuffle of legal documents. Lucas sat on one side with his attorney, Gerald Morrison, and Veronica perched right behind them. The sight of her was like a knife twisting in Anna's gut, but she kept her gaze forward, reminding herself that she had to be calm, composed, and dignified. When proceedings began, each side laid out their arguments. Gerald contended that the marriage had been failing for some time, and that Lucas had attempted reconciliation, only to be met with constant conflict from Anna. He argued that Lucas had supported Anna financially and emotionally, but that the relationship was beyond repair due to irreconcilable differences. Michelle Waters rose, presenting her case with measured precision. She revealed the timeline of the affair, pointing out how Lucas's betrayal coincided with Anna's pregnancy. She showed the judge hotel receipts, incriminating emails, and phone records that contradicted Lucas's narrative. Anna watched as Lucas shifted uncomfortably in his chair, jaw clenched. Veronica glanced around nervously, her confidence waning under the weight of hard evidence. Witnesses took the stand. Ian Caldwell testified about workplace rumors and how Lucas had openly traveled with Veronica under the guise of business trips. Anna's mother recounted tearful phone calls, how Anna showed up late at night, pregnant and distraught, after being thrown out of her home. Each statement felt like a small vindication, but Anna fought to keep her emotions in check. Finally, it was Anna's turn. She stood before the judge, her voice trembling at first as she described how Lucas had become distant, how she discovered he was lying about work commitments, and, ultimately, the night he kicked her out while she was pregnant. She tried her best to keep her composure, but tears threatened as she recounted the humiliation of having Veronica there, telling her to leave her own home. Gerald attempted to discredit Anna's testimony, suggesting she had been overbearing and that the stress of her pregnancy had made her paranoid. But Michelle countered each point with calm logic and tangible evidence. The turning point came when the judge questioned Lucas's motives for evicting his pregnant wife. Lucas mumbled about wanting to avoid conflict, but his answers lacked conviction, particularly when juxtaposed with the damning emails and Veronica's presence in the courthouse. During a brief recess, Anna found a corner to steady herself, breathing deeply to quell the tremors in her hands. Elizabeth rubbed her shoulders soothingly, whispering reassurances. She looked over to see Lucas talking animatedly with Veronica and Gerald. For a fleeting moment, her heart tugged with sorrow at what they had lost. But then she remembered how coldly he'd cast her aside, and the sorrow morphed into resolve. When the trial resumed, each side offered their closing arguments. Gerald pled for a reasonable settlement, emphasizing that Lucas was willing to provide for the child. Michelle demanded a thorough compensation, including spousal support, child support, and a fair division of assets, citing Lucas's higher earning potential and indisputable betrayal. As the judge called for a brief recess before giving the verdict, Anna's breath caught in her throat. This was it, the culmination of months of fear, anguish, and determination. She gripped Michelle's hand, grateful for the lawyer's unwavering support. She prayed silently for justice, for a resolution that would allow her to move forward with her head held high. Waiting for the judge to return felt like an eternity. Every second stretched into an hour as Anna fought the urge to look at Lucas or Veronica. She focused on her unborn child, on the future she needed to secure for them both. Whatever the judge decided, she vowed to rebuild her life from these ashes, stronger and more resilient than ever. When the judge finally returned, tension crackled in the air. Anna inhaled shakily, feeling every beat of her heart reverberate through her body. Lucas sat stiffly, and Veronica's usual smirk had melted into a mask of grim anticipation. In a calm, measured tone, the judge delivered the verdict. He acknowledged that while marriages often fail for various reasons, the evidence of Lucas's affair, combined with the cruelty of throwing out his pregnant wife, weighed heavily against him. The judge ruled that Anna was entitled to a substantial alimony, given she had to pause her career due to the pregnancy and subsequent turmoil. Furthermore, Lucas would pay child support, calculated based on his significant earnings as a financial consultant. The custody arrangement would allow Lucas supervised visitation after the baby's birth, but primary custody would rest with Anna until the child was old enough for a more flexible schedule. Anna felt tears of relief spill over as the judge continued, granting her a significant share of the couple's shared property, including the Georgetown brownstone. Lucas's pleas that the house was purchased primarily with his money fell on deaf ears. The judge cited the marriage's duration and Anna's contribution as sufficient grounds for her to retain it, if she so chose. Gerald tried one last protest, claiming the settlement was excessive, but the judge's tone brooked no argument. "Actions have consequences, Mr. Morrison," he said pointedly. "Given the circumstances and your client's ability to pay, I find these provisions not only fair, but necessary." The final blow to Lucas's pride came when the judge ordered him to cover Anna's legal fees, citing the disparity in financial resources and Lucas's deceptive behavior as key factors. Veronica's eyes widened, and she shot Lucas a look of disbelief. He remained silent. Anger and resentment etched across his features. The gavel came down with a decisive crack, and the courtroom hummed with pent-up energy. Anna's mind whirled. She had won. After months of betrayal and emotional turmoil, justice had prevailed. She could almost taste the freedom that lay ahead. Michelle turned to Anna and squeezed her hand. "Congratulations," she said softly. "You deserve this." Anna stood, legs trembling, as she gathered her things. As she made her way toward the exit, she passed Lucas, who stared at the floor. Veronica stood next to him, face flushed with fury. In that moment, Anna felt neither triumph nor pity, just a sense of finality. Their love story, once so promising, was irreparably shattered, but she refused to let bitterness consume her. She had a child to protect, a future to build. Outside the courthouse, the midday sun shone brightly. Elizabeth rushed forward, wrapping Anna in a hug. "You did it," she whispered. "I'm so proud of you." "I couldn't have done it without you," Anna responded, voice quavering with emotion. She gazed at the massive pillars of the courthouse, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. A wave of gratitude washed over her, for her mother, for Michelle, and for every friend who quietly supported her. The path ahead was still daunting, full of single motherhood challenges and emotional scars. But Anna had reclaimed her life. She looked down at her belly, softly cradling it. This victory belonged to her unborn child too, a testament that no matter how deep the betrayal, hope and justice could still prevail. The weeks following the trial felt surreal. Freed from the suffocating weight of uncertainty, Anna returned to her parents' home, her heart lighter than it had been in months. The baby's due date drew closer, and she devoted her energy to preparing for motherhood. Elizabeth helped set up a nursery in the corner of Anna's old bedroom. Fresh paint and calming shades of mint green, a crib adorned with soft blankets, and little shelves filled with picture books waiting to be read. Word of the trial's outcome spread among friends and former colleagues. Anna was surprised by how many reached out with words of encouragement. Marianne Foster, back from her overseas work, visited Anna, tears brimming as she apologized for not being there during the crisis. They spent hours reminiscing about their college days, forging a renewed bond of friendship and sisterhood. Meanwhile, Lucas's life took a sharp downturn. Gossip in his firm labeled him as the man who callously threw out his pregnant wife, and many of his clients distanced themselves. Though he maintained his position for now, his reputation was tarnished, and promotions that once seemed certain slipped through his fingers. Veronica stood by him, at least publicly, but rumors swirled about cracks in their relationship. Anna tried not to dwell on it. She had no room left in her heart for bitterness. She was focused on building a positive future. Anna found a small rental apartment in her old neighborhood, a temporary place until the brownstone was legally transferred to her name. She used some of the alimony to hire a contractor to make necessary renovations, ensuring it would be a warm, welcoming space for her and her child. On weekends, she strolled through the area, imagining raising her baby in the familiar streets of Georgetown. She pictured play dates in the local park, visits to the farmer's market, and a life brimming with promise. One crisp autumn morning, as she was adjusting a painter's ladder in the brownstones' living room, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen to see Lucas's number. For a moment, her hands shook. She considered ignoring the call, but a quiet voice inside urged her to pick up. "Hello?" she said cautiously. "Anna?" Lucas's voice crackled through the line. He sounded subdued, worlds away from the self-assured man she once knew. I just wanted to see how you're doing." Anna hesitated, warring with conflicting emotions. "I'm fine," she managed. "Busy getting the house ready for the baby." Silence stretched between them. When Lucas finally spoke, his tone was tinged with regret. "I'm sorry," he said. "I never meant. Everything got so out of hand." A swirl of memories flooded Anna's mind. Love, betrayal, heartbreak. She breathed in deeply, choosing her words with care. "It's in the past now. I just hope you'll step up as a father when the baby arrives." Lucas's voice faltered. "Of course. Yes, I will." She ended the call, her heart heavy but resolute. Forgiveness wasn't on the table yet. Maybe it never would be. But she could move forward, carrying no weight of resentment. She had more important matters to attend to, like motherhood and building a life of stability and love. As the weeks turned into days leading up to her due date, Anna felt an odd mixture of anticipation and nerves. When the night finally came, she went into labor with her mother by her side, rushing her to the hospital. In a flurry of nurses, doctors, and pain she never imagined possible, Anna brought her daughter, Lily Grace Morrison, into the world. Holding her newborn, Anna felt tears of profound joy spill down her cheeks. In that tiny face, she saw hope, new beginnings, and a love she never thought possible. Over the next few days, Lucas visited the hospital twice, each time respectful, tentative. He held Lily Grace with gentle awe, offering stammering thanks for letting him be there. Anna felt an unexpected pang, regret for what could have been, perhaps. But as she watched him say goodbye, she found solace in the knowledge that her daughter would know her father, even if her parents' marriage was irreparable. In the end, Anna emerged from the nightmare stronger, carrying her child in her arms and a renewed sense of self in her heart. She had lost much: her husband, her illusions, her once rosy dreams of a perfect family. But she had gained so much more: clarity, independence, and the fierce love of a newborn daughter who would grow up in a home guided by compassion and honesty. Some scars would remain, but in their place grew a new story, one of resilience, dignity, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. And as Anna walked out of the hospital, Lily Grace swaddled in her arms, she welcomed the dawn of a future defined not by betrayal, but by hope. Thank you for joining me on this emotional roller coaster of betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimate triumph. Anna's journey is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. No matter how dark the path may seem, hope and justice can still shine through. In the end, love takes many forms. Sometimes it's the unwavering support of family, and sometimes it's the fierce devotion we discover for a new life entrusted to us. If you enjoyed this story, please give the video a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales of real-life drama and redemption. Your support helps keep these stories alive, and there's so much more to come. Hit that notification bell to stay updated on future episodes. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep believing in new beginnings. End of story.